Hello, everyone, and welcome to Horse's Mouth Live. I'm Ellen Rogan, and as always, I'm here to bring you great information to help you not only grow your business, but grow personally. And welcome to Horse's Mouth Live. This is relatively new for us and me, and I'm really excited to be here today. And as I was talking with Doug Pierce, who is so many wonderful things at Horse's Mouth. He's the producer of podcasts and an editor and a super great guy. And we were talking about this idea of being on video more and thought it would be a really great topic for Horse's Mouth Live. So many of you have seen Doug's work and maybe you've seen him, but usually he's behind the scenes instead of in front of the camera. So Doug, welcome. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited as well. Coming out from behind the curtain to to be seen.
It's like the wizard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what I'm really looking forward to talking with you about today, Doug, is this idea about being in front of the camera. So
Yeah.
this idea of the show came about because I shared a story with you. I was talking to someone who's a consultant, a coach, used to be a financial advisor for many years, and he is a great speaker, really outgoing personality. And he disclosed to me, he said, you know what, I could stand up with 5 minutes notice in front of a group of 500 people and be fine. But you put me in front of a camera on my computer, and I don't care if it's a school board meeting, it makes me incredibly uncomfortable. And I thought, wow, like that is probably really typical. And this is a guy that speaks in front of audiences. So I imagine that for advisors that aren't even as comfortable speaking in public, but just being in front of the camera is just weird for them.
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, it is something that's really common. I think most people, when you point a camera at them and they're looking at a lens instead of another human being, the tendency is to freeze up and kind of get locked away inside your own head. It's perfectly normal, perfectly normal. And in fact, I've learned that doing video production, in-person video production, the key is really to get people to forget that there's a camera there. You don't want people to even think about the camera, because as soon as they realize that they see that little red indicator that the recording is happening, it's just like a deer in the headlights moment. So it's 100% natural, and it's just something that everybody's got to work to get over with, especially now, where if you want to connect with your clients, if you want to connect with prospects, video is a great way to do that, and you got to get over that hump. 100%.
Yeah, that idea of making people feel comfortable reminded me when I first started doing some TV interviews, the best interviewers, when they could tell I was nervous, were the ones that tried to put me at ease and help me really forget that there was a camera there and I was just having a conversation with someone. This is trickier because depending on what you're doing in front of the camera, you might not even get that feedback from the person on the other side.
Right. Yeah, exactly. If it's just you in your home or office, you've got to, it's just you and the camera. So there is no other person to help you kind of warm up a little bit. It's all on you. And, I think, if you want to get into like ways to overcome it now, Ellen.
Absolutely. That was just what I was going to ask you.
Yeah. I mean, really the only way is just, exposure therapy. You've got to do it. And it's actually not a bad idea to just record yourself, locally to your computer or whatever, with nobody watching, and just talk to your camera. Right? That's probably one of the main ways. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a really important point, is like to talk to the camera so that it looks like you're looking directly at the person, versus if you're on like a Zoom call or what we're on where there's a split screen. It's natural, if you've been good at making eye contact with people, to want to look at the screen where they're at, but that doesn't usually work, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny now because this is something I'm still struggling with, because like I have my computer monitor like right next to my camera, and I want to look at your face, which is what naturally you want to look at the person's face you're talking to, but that I want my eye contact to be on the viewer, and for it to look on screen like I'm looking at you or at the viewer. And to do that, you got to look directly at the camera. So it is something you got to get used to. And I think one of the kind of pro tips for doing that is, along with practice and just getting used to it, is to take like a fluorescent, like a sticky note or something
Mhm.
like that, and put that right next to the lens, whether it's, the camera lens on your computer or your webcam, wherever that camera lens is. Put that little fluorescent sticky note right next to it, just as a visual reminder to bring your gaze back there and off of, whatever feed or control panel, in my case, you're tempted to look at. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to circle back to this idea of practicing.
Hmm.
The second, right when there was the stay-at-home orders, we jumped in and started doing webinars on. I know Horse's Mouth was doing them on many, many different topics. I stepped in to do webinars on mindfulness, and the second one we did was where I was really on camera most of all of the time and less of my slides. And what I did before we went live on the webinar
Hmm.
was I did exactly what you recommended, which is to tape myself. So I did just went on Zoom and hit the record button. And I was so glad I did, because first of all, I noticed if I was looking at the camera. But the other thing was, because there's this little window I was dealing in, I caught myself doing this really weird thing with my hands. I kept
Yeah.
making these lobster claws. And then I look back at the replay, I'm like, why am I doing that?
Yeah.
So you may catch me still doing that, but at least I'm being a little bit more mindful and aware about that.
Well, Ellen, I think we're going to get to this later, but one tip to make yourself more engaging on video is to use hand, gestures. So I don't know if the lobster claw is where you want to go, but might not have been as bad as you thought. Maybe not all the time, though.
Well, hopefully I caught myself and was a little
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
It's funny because when I see myself doing that, I'll go like that. I'll
Yeah.
just open my hand.
Yeah. Probably don't want to look like you're trying to
Um,
claw the eyes out of the viewer.
yeah. So what are, besides using hand motions, what are some, and looking in the camera, which we've talked about, what are some other ways that you've seen presenters be really engaging on camera?
Well, first, maybe to take a look at like your normal advisor or person who's going to start doing video, whether it's live video or pre-recorded video, is that I don't think a lot of people understand that you do need to dial up your energy a little bit, because if you kind of approach it and talk like you would with the same energy level as you would with somebody in person, it just doesn't come through the camera as much as you think it do. And a lot of people end up looking, as a result, very kind of low energy. And obviously you don't want that, right? So you
Right.
do have to kind of dial up both the volume of your voice, and also, if you can, and this is something that again comes with practice, but your gestures, just how maybe you move around a little bit more. That really does make you more engaging to watch, and it's not something that comes naturally to most people. So that's kind of the key thing, and that people who are used to, like, if you look at like big YouTube, like YouTubers or whatever, or just people who do a lot of video, you'll notice that they almost like attack the camera. I want to say, like when a new clip starts, they'll like, hey, I'm here, and they'll like come, they'll make that movement towards the camera that just kind of like changes up what people are seeing, and people are attracted to
Yeah.
motion, so it just helps keep that engagement going. It's kind of funny when you know to look for it and you see it, and you know that they're doing that like intentionally. But it is. I mean, that's just the way it is. Any kind of
And
movement you can do.
I've seen people, and I've tried this myself, where when you want to emphasize something or make a point, you could lean in, like here's the secret,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you're creating a different sense there. I've also seen people with standing desks, so they have more energy because you're standing, which,
Yes.
if that's how you normally talk in your office, if you have a standing desk, if it's even a client meeting, that may make sense. But certainly if you're giving a presentation, that usually brings more energy. I was in a 3-day virtual conference that was supposed to be in person, so that's long, and there was breaks. They did some really cool things in it, but one of the and they were all excellent presenters. One of them I noticed in this idea of bringing more energy, she talked really, really fast.
Hmm.
So it kept your attention because you had to pay attention because she was talking so quickly and really great content. But that is also another way I know when I listen to replays, I always turn it up to like 1.5 or 2 times speed. I couldn't do that with her sessions because I couldn't understand her then because she was
Too
talking
fast.
so quickly.
Yeah.
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 But it was good. It was good. Yeah, what are some other, I mean, I know you and Horse's Mouth has done a lot on giving good virtual presentations. And there was a link you sent out in one of something I was watching on Horse's Mouth about BJ Fogg's
BJ Fogg.
web. Yeah,
Yep.
he did a Zoom conference and you gave it as a link of a really great way to run a meeting. And I know when I watched him, I felt like I was sitting there with him.
Yes.
Besides, the content was excellent.
Yeah.
He did things, I just showed you this. I tend to um, want to lean on my slides more than I should. And I don't want to do that in these kind of conversations because it's even a littler, smaller screen then. So one of the things he did was make a sign of something he was trying to show. So I was doing a webinar on finding your superpower and I made a piece of paper as a sign, or I've shown other things, which I just dropped on the floor, so I won't show you that.
Yeah.
But to just hold up, here's one, a little card, and I got this from
You can bring. Yeah. There you
BJ.
go. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so there's ways if you're presenting that might make it just visually more interesting.
Yeah. So while I think, for the most part, we've learned that yeah, you want to avoid, death by PowerPoint, right? But
Always.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, bringing in, slides, bringing in other media if you can is good to like just to change things up. So maybe don't have them be super text heavy, but yeah, you bring in whether it's signs like physical signs you're bringing in front of the camera, or you are sharing your screen to bring in some slides or images or video clips, audio clips. Anytime you can introduce more media is usually a good thing for engagement.
So
Definitely.
before we get into some of the technology around this, because I have two things. One, I think, well, let me start with this. Like, what are some of the worst things you've seen people do? You guys have done, Horse's Mouth has done a lot of webinars. I know you're online a lot. Like, if someone really needed to avoid something, what would that be?
I would say the number one thing is going into your meeting or webinar having never used the platform before, or used it very minimally. Okay, and then the beginning, like the first 10 to 15 minutes, maybe even longer, of your meeting or webinar is just you trying to troubleshoot your own, your own microphone or your own camera, or your client's microphone or camera. That's the number one mistake, and it's so easy to fix. You just need to hop on either earlier, or preferably days, in the days ahead of your webinar or meeting, and just get comfortable with whatever platform you're using. Just do a little test run. Make sure that, record yourself, make sure that, people can hear you when you talk, people can see
Right.
you. And that, it's just, it goes a long way to making sure that the experience when you do get in is going to be seamless. So that's the biggest
And
mistake I see.
it'll help you feel more calm as well, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be freaking out.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and that's true because a lot of people don't realize that when you do kind of go live for a webinar or on any online video or anything like that, there's like a bunch of things that happen all at once. And it's very easy because you're in presenter mode. You're thinking about what you're going to say. You're not thinking about, oh, am I like recording this? Am I unmuted? Is the person I'm meeting with, are they unmuted? You're just not thinking about that thing. You're thinking about what you're going to say. So if you can get used to that workflow, that tech workflow ahead of time, do it. Absolutely.
yeah. I heard a podcast I was listening to with a big keynote speaker, and he said he just hates when people start by apologizing. Like, so sorry
Okay.
we can't be here in person.
Yeah.
So sorry this technology was so slow. Like, that is not a great way to start. It can actually, if at some point you feel like you have to bring it in, like, I'm so grateful we have this technology so we can actually still meet. That has a different feeling, and it probably doesn't go right up front in your presentation.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I totally understand that because that's something where I will kind of fall into that as well, where I'm like, oh, sorry about this, we're working to resolve it. Because when you do online anything, issues are gonna happen, right? I mean, you're gonna
yeah.
have, it's just inevitable that something's going to happen. But yeah, you're right. If you're just kind of like falling on the sword every time the slightest like glitch happens, it's just not a good vibe. It's not. It doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, and even if it's not a glitch, if it's just like the fact that you're not able to have your in-person client event and you're doing it this way, you don't have to apologize about that. People get the situation we're in.
Yeah. Yeah, and they get the fact that maybe your kids are screaming in the background, or one of them just woke up, or they come on camera. Uh, you know, People know that this is the normal now, and you don't have to get, you don't have to be like ashamed about that or get awkward about it, which of course is a another big mistake that you see
Mhm.
time and time again, right? Is when, what's that the BBC clip from like a year or so ago where the guy's giving an interview on CNN over Skype, and his kids come marching in, and he like shrinks into himself, gets red, and like waits for his wife or his housekeeper to come and, and grab the kids out.
Yeah, and if it might, Sean Duperrin, who's been on on the podcast before, calls it just as is it. It is what it is. Like, oh, there's my kid.
Yeah,
Oh well, and that makes it just so much more normal than pretending it doesn't happen. And same thing with tech problems. I mean, you can't. I'm not saying you shouldn't apologize if something's really wrong, or say you're not working on it and just pretend like it's not happening.
yeah,
But don't spend all your energy on that.
and you
Yeah.
should look at it as an opportunity to showcase your personality, because it's in those
Beautiful.
moments where your humor can shine through. Your it can be an opportunity as much as it's a snafu. Absolutely.
So I want to make sure we talk about some of the technology, but I want to preface this by saying that sometimes advisors don't get started because they are feeling like the technology is too hard, or they feel like everything has to be in place. They have to have the perfect camera and the perfect lights. And so we're not saying that, but like if
Yeah.
we're starting at the basics to make a good video conference, a good webinar, a good video call with clients, what do you suggest that people have in terms of equipment and use in terms of platforms?
Okay, well, this is a little bit of a tricky question right now because still at this point, any gear that I would recommend for you to pick up might be still really hard to get a hold of, because as soon as everybody, started working virtually, the webcams, the external mics, the capture cards, all that kind of stuff got snapped up immediately, and now you might not even be able to get a hold of stuff, even if you wanted to. But I would reiterate for you, for those people who feel like they do need something external, whether it's a camera or microphone, you really don't. The best gear you have is the best gear to get started is the gear you have right now. Just get started. If your computer, your laptop has a built-in camera, it's got a built-in microphone. Maybe you could use some of your Apple earbuds that have a built-in microphone. That'll be better. But you can get started right away, and nobody's going to judge. It's much more important for you to get yourself and your message out there and to connect with people right now than it is to make sure you look and sound as good as you possibly can. But of course, that said, I also recommend get started right away, but maybe over time, piece by piece, you do kind of upgrade your gear so that you do look and sound better, because it is important. The number one thing is audio. people will watch like video that doesn't look very good, maybe looks blurry or what have you. But if the audio is good, they'll listen to it. But if you flip that and you have a video where the video is pristine, but the audio's garbled, maybe it's noisy, it's hard to hear, people will not watch that at all. We just, as human beings, like the audio, it just bothers us. Problems with audio bother us more. So any money you spend in the beginning should be spent on audio, in my opinion. And the first thing to get would probably be a USB microphone, a microphone that plugs right into the USB port of your computer. Whether that's a Blue Yeti, that's like one of the common ones. There's also like the Samsung G-Track Pro, and I think these are still available, so you could get these. But if you don't know what I'm talking about here, like, I'll see if I can lift that up. So that's what I'm talking about when I say USB microphone. That just plugs. It's an external microphone, plugs right into your computer. It's plug and play. Your computer will recognize it, and you can start using it right away. And using something like that instead of the built-in microphone on your computer is going to sound a lot better. So that's kind of the first thing I would suggest people to get. And then after that, you would want to look at updating your camera. The easiest way to do that is to get an external webcam. Logitech makes really good webcams. We recommend the Logitech Brio, which is kind of like the king of webcams, has been for a while. But that said, good luck getting one because its reputation, it's been the king for a while. Everybody knows it's the king. And because of that, demand has spiked for those. And it's really hard to get a hold of one of those.
Yeah, I'm grateful you told me to get one right away. I got a different version of the Logitech.
Yeah.
Got it, plugged it in, and then looked down and realized I already had one. So,
Yeah.
so I did this right at the beginning, but that ended up being good because my husband didn't have one.
Oh,
So now
okay.
we're all set.
Yeah. You could have sold it on
What
eBay for like 5 times the price you paid for it.
that would have been smart. But
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about lighting and camera position.
But before we move out from that,
Yeah.
Ellen, I just want to mention something that you're doing right now, and I'm doing as well, is you notice for us to hear the computer's, sound output, we're not using our computer's built-in speakers, which the audio might get put, our microphones might pick up that audio, and it might go back into our call, and we get like annoying feedback. We're using headphones, earbuds. See, Ellen's got them plugged right into her microphone. That way, my voice, when I talk, doesn't come out of her computer speakers, go to her microphone, and then we hear it again. So that's another best practice to avoid that. Because again, those audio issues really annoy people. So that's another best practice. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Camera height, lighting, what do you
Yeah.
suggest with that?
So the best practice for that is, eye level with a camera lens. Of course, as I say this, I realize that I'm a little bit above my camera lens, but you want to be as eye level as possible, really center shot. For your lighting, it depends what you have. If you're just using, the kind of the lighting you have around, the best thing is to use, daylight if you can. Sit with the window in front of you, ideally, so that the light is coming onto your face. Don't do the opposite. Don't sit in front of a window because that will just like glare and just be super
It
visually.
makes you dark looking
And it
too,
makes
right?
you
You
dark
can't.
by comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the camera's image sensor is like, oh, we're getting all this light. Let's darken what we see, and that's you. So yeah, you don't want to sit in front of an open window. You want that window to be in front of you, casting light onto you, or from the side. And you really, if you're using a built-in camera in your computer, or if you're using a webcam even, they do have really small image sensors, and they really are light hungry. They want as much light as possible. So go ahead and flick on all the lights. If it's a really cloudy day or whatever, maybe you have like a desk lamp or something, or I've seen people even use like the camera on their phone. There's like a light app or something, like a flashlight app or something, and even like put that in front of you casting light upon you. The more light, the better if you're using one of those cameras, one of those webcams.
Yeah, and it depends what room you're in. I know when we
Yep.
first started and we were filming some of the podcasts before we went live, it depended on which time of day. Like my office was fine. And so I brought in lights that I had gotten for when I was doing videos that I just brought them into the office. Let's see if, I don't know if I can show you these. Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're like, and you don't need anything that big, but I had them already. So
Yes.
instead of um,
Well,
buying new lights, it helped it be a little brighter in here.
yeah, and I mean, the thing with daylight is great. You know, it's probably the best light we have, but it's very inconsistent. Like today, it's a very cloudy day here in New York, but you know, maybe the sun comes out and then it's like glaring on me. You know, so that's the one thing about daylight is it can be very inconsistent. But when you're using a webcam, really, the more light, the better. But if you do have, they're relatively inexpensive and easy to use. These LED lights, which you can pick up. We use the newer NEEWER 480s. A lot of Horse's Mouth staff has those, and you know they're pretty easy to set up, and they can go a long way. And with those, you want to ideally, if you have one, you want it to kind of be ideally you want it to be like above your camera, like directly behind your camera, slightly above, slanted down at you, coming at you that way. If you have two, you kind of want them, angled out you, kind of like out in a triangle formation where you're the point, and both of them again slightly above you, pointing down at you like this. Can you see my hands? Okay.
Yeah, well, so this is something obviously you can play with. And again, don't worry, don't keep this from having you be on
Exactly.
video.
Exactly.
You know, your phone can work. There's great
Fu-
cameras on these now.
Say that again.
And just
I mean, they really like the phone on your camera. I mean, the camera on your phone is really good. You know, it's better than any camera that comes built in with your computer. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just know that your clients want to hear from you and they want to see you. They miss seeing you in person too. So, I am encouraging the advisors that I'm working with directly to just have a regular way they communicate. I'm sure many of you out there know this, but I just learned this like the week before last that you can give video messages and audio messages on LinkedIn in messaging. So you just do that with your phone. You open the app. And I had someone who I was going to be on their podcast. I hadn't met her before. She's from Ireland. She had the cutest accent. And she left me an audio message on LinkedIn. I was like, this is so fun. So before I got to meet her, I got to hear her voice. And then same thing with videos. So you can leave a quick, you had a follow-up call with a client. And again, there may be compliance issues for you. So I'm just saying, of course, make sure you're doing things that your compliance department will be comfortable with. But could just be like, hey, it was so great to have that video meeting with you, or I'm thinking about you, just thought I'd send you a quick message. And if you do it by video, it's going to add a little extra warmth and fun for your client as well.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why video has become so huge and is only getting huger online is because it's just effective for connecting with people. And I say, with clients, of course, you're going to connect better if they can see your face, right? It's just hardwired in the human brain to be reading the face of the person who's, talking to us. And we get a lot, I don't know what the figure is, but a large percentage of communication happens non-verbally, just how, your face and your body posture and things like that. And when you use video, you're communicating with all of that,
Yeah.
which is, it's just more effective. It just is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So we could go on for a very long time about this,
Yes, we could.
but I think we both just want to. I'll speak for me, and you can give us your last thought, Doug. Is just do it. Like if you need help, reach out to someone that can help you, but don't get stuck in the technology. It doesn't have to be perfect. People are super forgiving now because lots of people are stepping into video for the first time. So whether it's you're doing a big webinar or client event for people, or you're just connecting in, meetings with your clients, go ahead and do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe do a test, do a test run first. But once that's out of the way, just jump right in. Absolutely. Don't think that you need something. Don't think you need like a 3 point lighting kit before you do this. People, you know, now is the time. You know,
Yep.
don't let any gear issues or anything like that stop you. Just do it. Absolutely.
Good. Well, thank you. And thank you, all of you who've tuned in to listen to this live, or maybe you're watching the recording. We are thrilled to have you here on Horse's Mouth Live. And if you have questions, you can leave them in the comments section. We'll get back to you on that. If you want more information about me, you can find it at ellenrogan.com. And if you go to ellenrogan.com/horse's mouth, I have a special report there for you. And there's a lot of additional information on some of the mindfulness workshops I've been doing, that resources and things that I'd be super helpful for you, not just in this time, but always. And so thank you. And Doug, thank you so much. This is so fun to have you actually in front of the camera and
Yeah.
instead of behind the scenes.
Yeah,
Your information is valuable.
you're very welcome. It was fun. It was fun to get. So yeah, Toto found me, and I came out, and it worked out better than the
Behind the
movie.
curtain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So thank you, Ellen.
great. Yeah, and I'll just end with remember to be great and create great every single